How's it going, guys? It's Pride here, back with part 4 of What If the Earthlings Were Strong. Last time we left off with the Z Warriors finishing their training in the hyperbolic time chamber, with all of them growing beyond their wildest dreams. However, some grew more than others, either by achieving forms that was previously unattainable to them, or by mastering techniques that by itself put them in a whole nother tier, and in one case, discovering a technique that is very different than all the other ones. This is what this new chapter is going to be about, as Tien tries to understand his newfound powers and understand a little bit more about himself. So without further ado, let's look at it from the perspective of Tien Shinhan as he walks down the road that his questions might lead him. We'll start 2 days before the Z Warriors all split up and go their separate ways, the day that Tien got out of the hyperbolic time chamber and Krillin got in. During this day, Tien reflects on everything that he has learned during his year in the hyperbolic time chamber, and he thinks back to the last moment where he displayed an unknown skill that has never been done before, a skill that is utilized to control the ki in his opponent's body. So much so that he can make the opponent just stop or freeze at Tien's own whims. Tien has never done this before. In fact, he has never seen anyone else control ki to this degree. This also leads Tien to ponder on how he's able to actively see the ki in someone else's body, which is also something new for him and unheard of. During this whole day, Tien tries to replicate these effects with Chaozu, Gohan, and Piccolo, but with very little success. Sometimes he's able to see the ki of his opponents, Piccolo or Gohan, when they put him in a very tough spot, and he focuses very hard with his third eye. However, he has not been able to replicate controlling the ki in their bodies, or stopping them from utilizing their ki. This leaves Tien a little confused on what to do, and he even asks if any of them knows how to replicate what he's already felt, with Gohan and Piccolo both responding in their own ways that they really never heard of a technique like this, and they won't even know how to begin with a technique like this. It seems to be unique only to Tien. On the second day, once Krillin has gotten out and Goku and Vegeta both go into the hyperbolic time chamber, Tien questions Krillin if Krillin can do certain moves that he can't do before, like control someone else's ki. Krillin responds that that's impossible for him, but he does remark that the only surprising thing is that Yamcha's Kaioken seems to be, at this point, different from theirs. So Yamcha seems to have something special going on with him also. Tien is getting a little desperate and he wants to use the Dragon Balls to try to get some answers. However, the time limit for the Dragon Balls isn't yet up, since Yamcha used them for his own wishes earlier that year. And Tien doesn't want to wait around a couple of months because he's just now started his training again, and he doesn't want to all of a sudden halt it just for some questions. So his next plan is to go to planet Namek to get answers there, and he decides to wait for Goku and Vegeta to come on out. Once Tien resolves to do this, he decides to relax with the rest of the gang, taking his mind off of his current predicament for the moment. The next day happens, and everyone talks about their respective plans and decide to go their own separate ways in order to achieve their own goals. This leaves Tien saying goodbye to Chaozu as he goes over to Capsule Corp to get the Dragon Radar so he can go to Planet Namek and locate the Dragon Balls relatively easy. When he gets there, Tien explains to Bulma the reasons he needs this Dragon Radar so he can understand himself a little bit better. He explains to her that he figures that the dragon will be able to tell him something about himself that he didn't already know. And how the only other thing that he can think of that makes him different is him having 3 eyes. He figures that something with his heritage has to be the key in order to unlocking this mysterious power, and hopefully being able to use it consistently. Bulma tells him there's a better way to get answers. She then goes on to explain that there's this big-headed man named Zuno who apparently knows everything in the multiverse from the beginning to now, and she explains that Jocko can take him. Tien is actually excited to hear this. Bulma does explain that he's gonna need to bring a cute girl with him in order to get more than one question answered. And before Tien can say anything, Bulma quickly says that she doesn't want to see him again, so he might as well not ask. This leads to Tien trying to figure out who to bring while Bulma gets in contact with Jocko. He thinks for a second he doesn't really know who to bring or who would be right to bring. He knows plenty of girls at his dojo, but he thinks it would be inappropriate to bring them into some type of space adventure on such short notice. For a second he thinks about Launch, but she can get a little volatile at times and randomly. And he doesn't really want to risk that because he wants his questions answered without there being any problems and without being kicked out of Zuno's home. This eventually leaves him with only one choice: Yuren. This seems like the correct choice, because if Tien was going to leave anyway, his plan was to ask her to take over the dojo for him, with Chaozu's help of course, but mostly leave it up to her for all the responsible activity, knowing that Chaozu can be a little easygoing sometimes. So Tien goes over and recruits her to come along to talk to this great Zuno. Jaco finally arrives and they all leave in a timely manner and arrive at Zuno's planet a little while later. Once all three of them have an audience, Zuno sees Yurin and decides that he actually likes her quite a bit. So he'll answer 6 questions for this visit. The first question is, what exactly is Tien? He knows that he's different on account of the 3 eyes, but this is the first time that he's actually deciding to question his heritage. Zuno answers this by saying that Tien is one of the last descendant of a race known as the Triclops, who were destroyed a long time ago in this universe. Tien absentmindedly says, so I'm the last, with Zuno responding, no, there are more descendants in this universe, but the odds that they'll have more knowledge than you is non-existent. Tien asks why, because all tomes have been erased and all knowledge for mortals have been magically removed, aside from me, Zuno, of course. He then reminds Tien that is 3 answers, so there's only 3 questions remaining. Tien stops himself from asking anything else until he fully collects his thoughts and is confident in his next question. Tien asks, so what's the full history behind the Triclops? Zuno responds with, they were a race gifted with many abilities. They were also great warriors. They had 4 arms to complete any task given to them, and 3 eyes that improved their vision vastly greater than most mortals. They had power said to rival even the gods, one of which led to their downfall due to the power of true seeing. One of the clan leaders foresaw the clan's demise by an all-powerful force, so they decided to get stronger by any means necessary for survival. And once they reached the pinnacle of their power and decided that it still wasn't good enough, they decided to eliminate other threats that still rivals them or could rival them in the future. One of such beings was the Kais. The Triclops as a whole decided to find and attack the core people. Very similar to Majin Buu, but in this case, the Kais were vastly outnumbered. So Lord Beerus stepped in and erased them all, thus ending them as a race. Tien's baffled for a moment after hearing all this, and then says, there's no true Triclops left that can teach me, huh? Well, I suppose. And then Zuno stops him and says, wrong. I said they don't exist here in Universe 7, but there is a clan that exists peacefully in Universe 6. They do tend to stay by themselves, however, and decide to not interfere in mortal affairs due to knowing how badly it went for the Triclops in this universe. That's amazing. How can I meet them? And Zuno replies with, the Namekians are said to be on friendly terms with the Triclops. And with that, Tien dropped Yorin back off at the dojo and decides to go to one other person that can maybe help him with his situation. He doesn't know anyone personally that can travel between universes, but he does know that it has been done before, and being part of the Tournament of Power, he knows that the angels at the least can teleport people between universes, so some type of god should be able to teleport him to a universe. He's just not sure which ones can do it, and so his first stop will be the god of Earth, Dende. See if Dende has any insights on which step he should take next. Upon Tien's arrival at Kami's lookout, or Dende's lookout really, Dende is glad to see Tien but wasn't really expecting him back so soon. They did just finish their training only a few days ago, so he's wondering if anything's wrong. Tien explains the situation and hopes that Dende can help. Popo chimes in and says that he knows a little bit more about the gods than Dende, seeing how Popo's been around for a very long time and knows all the official business of the gods. It says that Supreme Kai should be able to take you between planets if you ask him, and if he deigns that you are worthy to be able to go. And with that, Dende tries to get in contact with Supreme Kai. They do manage to get in contact, and they update Supreme Kai on the current situation. Supreme Kai responds that it is a fair question to ask, seeing how it does seem that Tien is one of the last of his kind. He has no problem to try to reunite Tien with the Triclops, as long as he makes a promise to not cause too much trouble in the other universe, like Goku seems to always do. Tien says, that won't be a problem. But before we go, could I also trouble Elder Kai with unlocking my potential like he did for Yamcha? If Elder Kai doesn't want to, well, I completely understand. Elder Kai joins in on the call and says that he has to get a look at him first to see if it's actually worth his time. If he's anything like Yamcha though, he doesn't see why he wouldn't be able to do it. So Supreme Kai picks up Tien and takes him back to the Kai planet, where Elder Kai starts to perform his magic. And by the end of the ritual, Tien does feel a lot better. But as Tien is checking out his new strength, he does notice that there is something a little bit off. It's like on the tip of his tongue. He's close to understanding something or close to grasping something, but yet it's just without his reach. That's when he looks at Elder Kai and he notices that he can actually sense Elder Kai, at least vaguely, something that he wasn't able to do before the ritual. He's wondering if Elder Kai made him a god or something, seeing how he knows that god keys should be undetectable unless you're part god. And this is where Elder Kai explains to Tien that the ritual was mostly a success. However, he couldn't unlock all of Tien's potential. Some of his potential is locked off, and it might be something that only he can unlock for himself, or maybe with the guidance of the Triclops, maybe they will also help him understand what's going on. And he goes on to explain that Tien being able to sense God Ki, well, the Triclops were a group of people that were very close to the gods. However, not really them. Kind of like Piccolo. How Piccolo can sense God Ki, but he's not truly a god. At least, not anymore. And that's what this ritual did for him. The ritual unlocked part of Tien's inherent power, but not all of it. It's just something that Elder Kai has a sense that he has no right to unlock for himself. So Elder Kai hopes that Tien does find the Triclops and is on good terms with them, that they'll help him out in his last stage. Either way, Elder Kai did what he could, so that's all he can say about it. Upon hearing this, Tien shows his gratitude to Elder Kai for all the things that he's done already and with all the help that he's already given him. Tien says that he's truly thankful and he hopes that he can repay this favor. Elder Kai thinks about that and gets a certain pervy look on his face and says, well, if you could... Supreme Kai stops him there and says, Elder Kai, we have to go. And before Elder Kai can say anything, Supreme Kai holds on to Tien and says, Kai Kai, and they are off to Universe 6. And that is where we'll leave it for today. Next time we'll see Tien in Universe 6 getting reunited with the Triclops and all the adventures that can happen there. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget to comment down below, and I hope you guys have a nice day. Breeze.